As you may have known, CSS is what helps us to make the web look beautiful. Left to HTML, the web will be so boring and it won't really be a good place to operate. Let's add a bit CSS to our project so that our project can look beautiful. So let's dive into it. Now in the project, we have just linked CSS style sheet and we're going to be declaring our CSS. We just have like default CSS file which was used to style the footer of our project, which is actually being commented at the bottom here. Okay, so let's target our HTML file. The first thing we need to target here is the testimonial class, which is the entire container for this section. So for us to do that, we're just going to say testimonial. Then we need to just declare some basic declarations. The first declaration is going to be the mean width. So we want the mean width to be 10 to 24 pixels. So we don't want it to be wider than 1024 pixels. So we're just going to save it. The next thing we want to do is to say margin. We want the margin to be 5 VH, then auto. So we want padding to be 20 pixels all around. So you can see that we have the padding. So the next thing we need to target is the H2. To do that, we're just going to say testimonials, then H2. The style we want to apply to is the font size. So we want the font size to be 2M. Font size is going to be 2M. Then the font weight is going to be 700. Then the color, let's make the color a dark gray. So it's going to be 333. Then we want the margin bottom to be 60 pixels. Alright, so we've targeted the H2. The next we want to do is to target the profile itself, which is going to be this very tag. So to target that, we just say testimonial, then profile. Then we make our declarations. Then what we want is just position relative. I think that should be fine for that. So going forward, we will need to also target the user metadata. So to do that, we're just going to say testimonial, then user meta. Then for the user meta, we're going to display flex. So we want this information to just come here. Let's see what it looks like. You can see that something is wrong. So let's check what we can do to the rest. Okay, so you can see that we wrap the name and the position in another div. So let's try to wrap the rest. So we're just going to wrap this in a div. You can see that it's corrected. The last one, we need to repeat the same thing. Okay, we should be good. Let's go back to our style. Then we want the mean width, or the max width rather, max width to be around 300 pixels. You're going to see how that works. You can see it's just going to come in 300 pixels. Then we want the padding. The padding should be 20 pixels. Also, we want the border radius to be 20 pixels. You're going to see all of these effects once we apply text shadow or box shadow to the first element. Now let's move forward. The next thing we need to target is the image. We need to be able to resize this image. So we're just going to say target it from this, copy this down, and just add image. Now for the image, we need to say the width. The width should be 64 pixel. The height as well should be 64 pixel. Right, so the next thing we want to do is border radius. Border radius of, we can say 40 pixel. You can see that gives us that round curve. The next we want to do is to say margin right and make it 20 margin right and just make it 20 pixel. You can see that we have space right here. And that's all for the image. The next thing we want to do is to target the H3. This very title or the name tag. Let's see what that H3 look like. Yes, the name. Now to target the name, you still follow the same. Let's just duplicate this and change this image to H3 and then just delete this declaration. So for the H3, we're just going to say we want the font weight to be 400. We want it lighter. 400, you can see changes. Then we want the margin bottom to be 0 pixel. Then we want the line height as well. Line height to be 0 pixel. So like we just want to close the gap between the header and the subheader so that it looks nicer. So the next is we need to just move forward and target the meta tag, testimony p tag, like the paragraph. And what we need to do for the paragraph is to change the color. Now to do that, we can just duplicate this as well and just change this H3 to p tag. Then what we can just do here is color. Then the color is just going to be pound A3. That should give us like a lighter gray. It is P, not O. You can see that the P tag under the title, the name, you can see. Now that we have that as a very light color, the next thing we need to target is we need to give margin. We need to be able to differentiate each of the testimonials. So let's just come here and just say that we want to target testimonial, then message, we want the message, details. Also we want to target testimonials, then user meta. Then we want to apply like margin top of 40 pixel. You can see that we quickly just have space in between. That works for us. The next thing we need to also cater for is the rating. So we need to change the color for the rating. Now for us to target the rating, we'll just use testimonial. Let's just copy this. Since it's under the message class, you can just say rating. Now we just want to change the color to orange. You can see that the color is changed. The next thing we want to target is the paragraph of the message detail. So let's duplicate this and just change this to P tag. Not the color that we want to change this time around. We want to change the font weight to be 300. Then we want it to have color of darker, let's just say 333. Then we also want the line height of 1.5 m. After that, we're just going to have font size of 1 m, just 1 m. And if you save it, you can see that the font is looking more cleaner. Then moving forward, we want to hide all the display, like all the details, so that we can only enable it on the first one. Let me show you what I mean. So all these detail messages, we want to hide them. Let's see how we can do that. So we can just copy this message detail and just give a declaration with a display none. You can see that all of them are not displayed. Now moving forward, we need to also then display it on the first one. So let's leave a comment and just say that profile open. Let's just put something to indicate that we want to open profile. So what we can do here is to say testimonials, then we target the profile, but this time around we want to add a class of open to the specific one that we want open. Then remember, what we are targeting is the message detail. So what we are just going to do here is to set the box shadow. To set the box shadow, we're just going to say box shadow. So for every active, we want to set that box shadow. So we're going to do it for the first one, but let's make our declaration first. So we're going to say 1 pixel, 1 pixel, let's say 70 pixel blur, then RGBA, just going to have black, then I'm just going to have 0.1. Okay, so no section of our code is getting that declaration yet, but let's try and see if we add the open class to the first profile, which already has the open class. Nothing is happening yet. Basically, we are supposed to target meta user, not message detail. So let's change that to meta user meta, and this should give us that effect. Okay, now that we see that we're able to achieve that effect, how about we display the first content? Now for us to display the content, all we need to do is to just copy this same thing. In fact, let's just duplicate this entire code. And I'm just going to change this to user detail. Remember, we set it to display none here. Let's copy this class. And we're just going to say display block. You can see that we have it on just the first one. What we need to do now is to display it on the right side. But when it's on mobile, we don't want to display it in two sides because it's not going to really work. So let's try to check what our code looks like. Let's try to rerun it here. So you can see that it looks pretty well on the mobile. So we're going to set our media query to help us manage on bigger screen. To do that, we can just come here and say at media, we want the min width. So whenever a screen is more than 720 pixels, we want this display to happen. So we're just going to target this same open. Let's just copy this same thing inside the media query. Then, but this time around, it's not going to be display. It's going to be position absolute. So remember, initially we set the position of the profile to relative. It just means that wherever we want to place this, we don't want it to go beyond the boundary of the profile tag. So let's just move on. Next, we need to just set the width to like 50%. Let's say 50%. Now, after having the width for 50%, okay, I think we should make it 55. Alright, so let's say we want to position it to the right. The right can be 0. Then the top can be minus 50 pixels. Okay, this is not showing now because there's something missing in our design, and it should be the width. So we spelled the width wrongly, and if you check it, you can see that it's already looking more like what we want to see. Even if we come to our responsive here, you can see it looking more similar to what we want here. Okay, so the next thing is we want to increase this user meta a bit on a larger screen. So we can just duplicate this and just turn this to 1024 pixel. So whenever it's 1024 pixel, we want to update the user meta. But what we want to do here is we just want to say max width. The max width should be around 350 pixel. You can see it's a bit longer. We can see that something is not still right with our code. Let's try to inspect. It's not supposed to be displaying up to this length. So let's check what's going on. Something is wrong somewhere. So instead of min width here, this should be max width. And if you check it, that should correct it. So it looks more nicely. Now the next thing, I want us to be able to cater for these very small screens, so screens that are less than 280 pixels. So for us to do that, let's just target another media query. So I'm just going to duplicate this one. And what I will do here is I'm going to just say max width of 280. So screen smaller than this, we inherit this style. But what we want to do here, from this very small screen, we don't want it to display side by side. We want them to just take one line. So we're just going to say display, make it block. And if we check it, you'll be able to see that on the smaller screen, extra small screen, it does not display to the left or right. And if you look at all our screen sizes, everything is looking nicer on all the screen sizes. And if you look at our HTML, everything works perfectly. And that's how we wrapped up on this one. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all our social media handles. In the next lesson, we'll be looking at how to add interactivity in a way that when the user clicks on each of the user, the actual text will show and other user text will be hidden. I know you can wait to see that. See you in the next one.